So a while back, I put together a video discussing what the most dangerous zombie outbreak ever was, and coming in at first was Call of Duty's Element 115 Zombies and Resident Evil's Virus. But what if I said that I watched back through today's series and might have retroactively changed my mind? The original 1968 film Night of the Living Dead not only served as inspiration for the series, but actively used the film as a way to say it was government propaganda, although hilariously in reality, creators John Russo and George A. Romero split, with the name's Living Dead rights going to Russo so he could split the timelines of the Romero Dead cinematic universe. While Romero's Dead universe went on for a while, Russo's Living Dead went and explained that Night of the Living Dead was a film based on a true story that got some facts right and some wrong. While the retcon of the original Romero canon had been given an overly 80s twist with tons of overly comedic injections and the word one thing was certain about these zombies in these films and the virus that created them. This was deadly. Deadlier than most zombie outbreaks. If it weren't bogged down to be a horror comedy that would eventually be diluted into terrible sci-fi exclusive films, this would have had the potential to be the most deadliest outbreak that would definitely put you at risk of not surviving. And that's why we are here today. Today we are discussing when hating weed so much literally starts the zombie apocalypse, when the zombie apocalypse finally happens and you don't have infinite magazines, easy ways to escape and plot armor.
It worked in the movie! Well, it ain't working now, Frank. You mean the movie line?
The forecast calls for a 100% chance of I don't want you for your body, I want you for your Talking eloquently with no lips, lungs, and vocal cords is physically impossible.
Get that damn screwdriver out of the head!
Or mostly impossible.
Okay, no more brain, you win.
And the most OP Zombies Ever series itself. Today we are telling you why you wouldn't survive Return of the Living Dead's 245 Trioxin virus. To quell the rise of beatniks and hippies that were dominating the youth culture of the 50s and 60s,
marijuana smoking, experts point out, can make a helpless addict of its victim within weeks, causing physical and moral ruin and death.
The US military sought ways to make the younger generation more gung-ho on enlisting more soldiers and having less of the lazy and or activist types. So what better way than going after the devil's lettuce? Establishing a contract with the Darrow Chemical Company, a sulfuric chemical compound and herbicide was created for the intended purpose of spraying on marijuana plants to either eradicate them or introduce some kind of mind-altering agent to them. These acts, based on the real-life defoliant known as Agent Orange or 2,4,5-T-dioxin, created by the DOW Chemical Company, another chemical used in attacks by the US during the Vietnam War to destroy plant life in the area while also causing toxic and adverse reactions. So repurposing a chemical like this on American soil to stop people from getting high was surely the way to go, right? Well, as stated earlier, the chemical was accidentally released in a VA morgue in Pennsylvania. These were events supposedly dramatized by Romero in Night of the Living Dead, but the actuality was not a virus from a space probe crashing to Earth, nor were these zombies easily quelled like they were in the film. The zombies were never able to actually be killed, and instead were all captured and sealed in large military steel containers. Over time, the containers holding these zombies were improperly transported to Uneeda Medical Supply Warehouse in Louisville, Kentucky, where they would stay dormant for nearly 2 decades, until one foreman would kick the canisters as a test of their durability.
Leak? Hell no, these things were made by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers.
Bruh. By doing so, he released the gas and decayed material of the corpse inside, infecting both him and the company's new hire, as well as the dead body in the cold storage, as well as everything else that is dead within that underground compound, bringing everything back to life. Frantically running about, the dead corpse would be pierced through the skull and decapitated. However, it did not die, and all severed parts acted independently of one another. Half dogs sprung to life, taxidermy vermin, insects, and more were all moving and acting as living organisms once again. They could not kill the corpse until they brought the parts of it to a morgue's incinerator where the body was burnt to ash. However, even disintegrating the zombie only caused the fumes from its smoldering remains to spread out into the air and storm clouds, causing a veritable acid rain to come down on the local cemetery. The polluted rain seeping into the soil and reanimating the corpses that lie below, rising from the earth in varying stages of decay, even down to mere skeletons coming back to life. From there, the undead would roam about, attacking the living and wanting nothing more than to eat some brain matter. It happened time and time again with the events of the first two films, until the military attempted to, of course, weaponize this virus to create super soldiers by the third film. Now, we will not be covering much of the fourth and fifth films, as they really nerfed the virus to make it more in line with generic zombie films, and the original 2-4 virus was essentially converted from its most deadliest form. Plus, the fourth and fifth movies were pretty damn awful. So the Trioxin zombies, what about them and the virus are so deadly? Sure, a majority of them move in a slow meandering pace, but they can also still run at full sprint if they have a target in sight. These zombies may look and sound one note, but they have a variety of tools at their disposal. The freshly dead retain slightly high mobility and even more so, intelligence and personality. Many zombies can maintain motor, communication, hunting, and team building skills in order to effectively hunt and prey upon the living. While most zombie franchises have zombies come out of nowhere to jump scare despite them being dumber than a rock, these zombies know to lie in the shadows or hide in discreet areas, even sometimes being caked in mud or foliage to get the drop on people more easily that are none the wiser. They can and will congregate with other zombies to swarm and overwhelm people by numbers instantly. Their voices will become darker and meatier, being able to talk with the dialect of their known language. They can imitate the living over voice communication, luring in people like emergency services or family and friends so they can be ambushed upon arrival. They will also attain heightened strength, as even one bite to the skull is enough to instantly kill a survivor in moments. Even more notably, these dead will still keep some semblance of what they once were, holding memories of their former life, but only to a point where they can meet their new goals and their second chance of wanting to eat brains as a rotting, moving corpse. Now, these are capabilities of those either freshly reanimated with a decent portion of their brain still intact, or freshly infected living, either bitten or exposed directly to the trioxin gas. If exposed to the virus directly, it won't be long before zombification of a different variety starts to occur to you. An infected individual suffers symptoms such as their internal temperature getting down as low as room temperature, loss of pulse and blood pressure, crippling migraines, chills, spasms, and full body aches. Over time, they will start to become insatiably hungry, eating whatever they can to quell the hunger. Once zombification is fully set in, their flesh whitened, and their mood completely changed, they will discern the hunger is for brains, and for most people will use any semblance of their former self in every way, shape, and form, only sickened, whitened, and kinda basically like Dennis Reynolds if his goal was to eat brains. A person will feign innocence to their former friends and family to give them a false sense of security to draw them closer, drop their guard, or remove any barriers between them. It's a devilish maneuver, but for many people in the world, they would fall for this ploy and either be bitten or eaten alive. A zombie that can use any tool to their advantage is also very dangerous. They can unlock any door, coordinate in any kind of effort. This alone puts them above most other zombie types we have discussed in the past. Think of the dark capabilities of a zombie horde that can appeal to your emotions and counterattack to anything you retaliate with, instead of being just a mindless drone groaning to eat you and nothing else. There is more to them. They are complex, and that is what makes them so dangerous. Now, of course, the Trioxin zombie can vary in these capabilities though. If a corpse has rotted long enough to where the brain is either deteriorated beyond reproach or just basically non-existent like a skeleton, as if brought back attacked by the virus on a long resting dead body, then the zombie in question will be the generic archetype of the living dead. Now, they are weaker, their flesh more soft and fragile, but they can still run if they have the appropriate body parts to do so. Some of these long, rotting corpses even are able to have their face caved in with a single punch from a frail woman. Being animalistic and primal in nature, they will be dumb as a typical zombie, not having the capabilities we have previously discussed. Now, with all that being said, their efficiencies and proficiencies aren't the determining factor of their overall deadliness and what completely envelops why you wouldn't survive. A body riddled with the Trioxin virus can act as something like an earthworm. No matter how much you damage them, they will keep persisting as a living organism. Every piece that is separated or chopped up acts independently of one another. Removing the head and destroying the brain aren't an end-all be-all ultimatum to defeating these individual dead denizens. Doing so, sure, a removed head will have a motionless, biting skull that can't really move around too much, and it's going to be a lot less dangerous. But now you have a flailing body looking to attack you and potentially scratch you, and we don't know the specifics if a scratch can spread the disease. You can fill these zombies full of lead, chop them to pieces, dissolve their flesh in freaking sulfuric acid, but the body will find a way to move and attack. The pieces inching around, possibly to get into food or water to infect it. The dissolved flesh is melted to the bone, but the skeleton will emerge to attack its prey. They don't need a brain to function. As long as there's some kind of meat involved, they are gonna be moving around. Guns will be useless, as mowing down a zombie will slow them down and cause them pain, but it will not outright kill them. And notice how I said pain. These zombies can feel pain and react to it, and this is the main reason they even desire flesh and the brains of the living in the first place. The iconic phrase of the franchise that coined a popular term within the zombie genre will be a primary prerogative for the flesh-eating monsters. However, unlike other reanimated corpses, their need for human flesh isn't purely due to instinct. Instead, these zombies consume gray matter to temporarily alleviate the misery of their own existence.
Why do you eat people?
Not people, brains.
Why?
The pain. The pain of being dead.
It hurts to be dead.
I can feel myself rot.
Eating brains, how does that make you feel?
It makes the pain go away.
Feeling every fiber of their being rotting, being chopped apart, ridden by bullets, decaying, being separated. The zombies here may be practically unkillable, but they feel every single thing that happens to their decomposing frame. Eating the brain of a living individual allows them to absorb the electrical synapses of the gray matter, and for a very brief period of time, their pain will be numbed. Almost like a drug, they continuously need to take care of their pain, but their hunger is going to be insatiable, and if there is a chance to have more brains to eat at any given time, even in the middle of a meal, they will take it. Despite the need solely for brains, many zombies will still tear into any part of a person, mostly by the more rotted and feral forms of the army that are just looking to eat. But their durability, cunningness, intelligence, strength, and eventually numbers will inevitably lead to your doom. The only true ways of killing them is either by electrocuting their bodies, effectively overloading the synapses with millions of volts, or completely incinerating their mass will be the only way of taking them out. They can also be temporarily disabled by extremely cold temperatures that will shut down all functions until thawed, but freezing a bunch of zombies is more in line with something that is science fiction. Now, attempting to electrocute a ton of zombies would require luring them into an electrical plant or fashioning a weapon that would be able to consistently take out large groups of the dead, and for the average person, unless you're an electrician, I don't see that happening. Most people would figure out that all body parts would still be alive, no matter how much is destroyed, and the method that most people would default to is burning the bodies and all parts en masse to completely eradicate them. But as stated earlier, even burning their bodies would cause some fucked up shit to happen. The fumes from their bodies would still carry the 245 Trioxin virus, as the man-made disease can resist temperatures of thousands of degrees, allowing it to go airborne in the attempted cleansing fire. While airborne, it's very possible those nearby could inhale the noxious fumes and slowly zombify. But even more horrifying is that it will bleed into the air and near instantly cause dark gray rain clouds to form in the greater area around. From there, water latent with the Trioxin virus will rain down and reanimate any dead in the area deep in the ground or above, while also causing mild burning sensations to the living. However, it is very important to note that exposure to this rain directly via your skin will not infect you. It seems infection via the virus can only be fully transmitted via either bites, scratches, or direct exposure to the airborne particles of the virus. But while waterborne, it can only infect dead organisms. So the only really easy method of destroying them, that is fire, will only create more and even bring back the dead you killed via electrocution or incomplete disintegration. You are SOL no matter what you attempt to do. Any living thing that has died coming back to life and wanting nothing more than some brains. And I mean anything. This virus has no limit on the type of organism it can affect. While the series only explored human hosts, animals and plants could very well be infected or reanimated. Any common animal like squirrels, cats, dogs, rats, and even insects could fall under these effects. Imagine large animals in rural areas like bears being unkillable with an even tougher and sturdier frame. And if the virus can spread through bites, then even a mere mosquito or spider bite could have you turning without knowing how it possibly even got in your body. Any animal, any insect could be a harbinger of the virus. And honestly, there's a lot of dead animals out there, thousands of ants that can be infected. Any small creature could sneak their way into where you're hiding and bite you. With this occurring, people would randomly turn, possibly at night while asleep, while in safety, and while no one notices them turn, they can discreetly approach others and eat their brains out. The original intent of the 245 Trioxin virus was to affect marijuana, so it's possible that any kind of plant could be infused with it as well and harbor the disease. Whether that means consuming those plants through vegetables, stuff like dandelions or fungi releasing spores and seeds to further infect other vegetation, or plants even becoming meat eaters, however that would turn out. But the rules of the virus are all living organisms that can die can be infected, so it's very possible if fully explored. Exploration of this virus never really happened beyond some core ideas for human hosts, and then a dog and some butterflies, but the basic groundwork can be expanded exponentially beyond its comedic horror roots. The 245 Trioxin virus being so virulent to the point that its infected can't be killed after being chopped apart or lacking a brain or vital organs is biologically impossible, and even more impossible to attempt to survive if government intervention wasn't able to wipe out the greater population via electrical means. No matter how prepared you are for any kind of apocalyptic or world-ending scenario, no matter how fortified and armed you are, the trioxin-ridden organisms will either weather down your defenses or sneak their way in to harvest brains, and attacking them will not do too much to them as they relentlessly hunt you down. The pieces will all come together. Human trioxin recipients will use their visage as people to trick the living to coming to them willingly, opening up their safe havens, or appealing to sympathy from loved ones to make their hunt easier and more efficient. Political and armed leaders could be infected and instruct their forces to enter areas that can infect more people and create zombies that could carry weapons. Imagine a zombie that will efficiently gun you down and disable you so it can crack your skull open. The possibilities of what these kind of zombies can do at ground level are practically limitless. The default of just nuking and bombarding highly populated areas with most of my Why You Wouldn't Survive scenarios is actually the worst answer you could possibly come up with, as it would only cause the widest radius for the charred remains of the trioxin zombies to fume out and reign over a large multi-mile area, resurrecting all animals, plants, and humans within that range and resetting the zombie apocalypse we assumed we just destroyed. If you really think about it, there is always going to be some kind of dead organic matter no matter where you look. The Trioxin virus was also developed originally as to be used by the United States military and was eventually attempted to be repurposed into a biological weapon that could either create super soldiers that could not be killed by any conventional method, or used as a gas. If they could get a person to reanimate and get over their pain and hunger for brains, an unkillable super soldier would lead to devastating war crimes and bloodshed. Durable beasts like the Tar Man would be concocted and unleashed with an even sturdier frame than most. But even worse than that, if this were to be administered like the virus's inspiration of Agent Orange back in Vietnam, then fumigation strikes of spreading the trioxin gas across populated areas would easily infect thousands of people and cause undead chaos that, from there, would be uncontrollable with no real countermeasures to stop their spread. The only realistic way of stopping their onslaught is corralling them up and sealing them in unbreakable containers. The only way to stop them is go full SCP to attempt to contain every single zombie to prevent the virus from spreading further. Destruction is not feasible in any way in the long run. If that cannot be done and electrocution methods can't be executed to a condensed populace near the beginning of the outbreak, the world could easily fall to these rotting, mostly smart, and unkillable threats of every kind of species. The New World Order would just have one word for its motto, and that motto is... Well, that was my big-brained look into the Return of the Living Dead 245 Trioxin virus if it bled out into our reality. Is there stuff I got wrong, right, or did I go off the walls with it? Can you blame me? The virus was a joke that implied a lot of dangerous capabilities. I didn't really want to cover 4 and 5 of the franchise as the military nerfed it where they were just generic zombies, and that is boring. A virus this virulent would keep its maximum killing and infecting potential. What should I cover next on the series? Let me know in the comments. Pitch in a few bucks to help the channel via either Patreon or becoming a YouTube channel member, and you could have your sexy brain name on this list here in the future. Hope you had a good holiday, and stay tuned for a look into how 28 Days Later changed the zombie genre forever. Until next time, I'm Zackass, aka Wow Such Gaming. Stay happy, stay healthy, and how about you let me have some of them brains?